Hi, welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to talk about one of the coolest things that has happened in my foiling life is my signature model with Amos shapes.
In this video, I want to show you the Cypher and the Downwind Cypher. There are two models. One is a SUP Surf model and one is a Downwind specific Cypher. And I also want to talk about board lengths for beginners. So that's the later half of this video. And then we're just going to finish with a whole bunch of epic footage that Ben Taylor got.
When Amos asked me what signature board I wanted to make, I immediately was like, I want to make a SUP surf board because my quiver was essentially like 810, 9.4 downwind boards and then 410 prone boards. And I didn't, because I'd gotten rid of my Sultan, I didn't have anything in between to SUP surf. And I quite enjoy SUP surfing. It's really fun on small days where there's not a lot of chip-ins, and it can be great in areas that are really crowded. And as many of you know, I live on the Sunshine Coast and it's crowded. But it's also absolutely the best cross training to stay fit for downwinding. And that in particular in the lead up to Hawaii was what I was after. So it was a bit of that, to be honest. I just wanted a SUP surf board so I could get in the lead up to Hawaii. So he asked me what was I thinking, and it's one of those weird things. I sent him drawings of what I was after, and pretty much that's what he made. I was pretty blown away. The man is very talented. And that's what we've ended up with here. So, design features. We'll call this section Decoding the Cypher. No, that's dumb. Right, this is one of the big things I wanted. I wanted a big kick in the tail. Now, this is just the nature of the Sultan when you're surfing with it, is because it's got a big flat tail, it tends to touch down quite a bit. And then I've noticed that with other boards, as you move your boxes forward, you start to get a bit of this action going on. So the closer the tail is to the water, the more it'll touch.
No touchy, no touch.
So I was very adamant that it needed a fairly aggressive kick in the tail. And then we put this nice, I wanted it to be like a Batman tail, but Amos thought that was dumb, and I can see why. But anyway, because we have the big kick in the tail, I wanted a flat rocker through the middle. Now that just means that it's going to be as stable as possible when you're not riding a wave, and it also extends the waterline so that it feels faster than it is for such a short board. Now this is actually not the final production nose. The final production nose is a little more streamlined. The downwind board is more close to the final blank, but everything else is the same. We've got nice boxy rails. This is a planing hull type board, which will matter more when I talk about the downwind board. So this board has been made for the everyday foiler. Now you can get plenty radical and performancy on this board if you want, but a lot of the features have been designed around user friendliness, getting your wave count up, being easy to use, and then there's a few little things that make sure that if you feel like getting a bit spicy on foil, that you still can. So it's available in 7.0, 7.4, which is the one I've been riding. So I downwind on about 120 liters, but I SUP surf on about 110, and this has been perfect for me. This is 21 wide, so it's a little bit wider than, like I say, a downwind board, and this has not been designed primarily as a downwind board. There are some people who will use this as a downwind board, but a lot of people, this is going to be a SUP surf board. We do have the Cypher downwind, which I'll show you now, which has very much been designed for downwinding. The reason I think this board is so important right now is there's so many people that want to get into downwinding, and one of the best ways to leapfrog into downwinding is to start SUP surfing more often. It'll give you the muscle memory, the fitness, and it'll teach you to paddle up, at least in certain circumstances, that will translate. So I'm not a big fan of flat water training anymore. I very much advocate for go SUP surfing, go riding the bumps, and I think getting a SUP surf board as a step to getting into downwind is a great idea. Okay, I'll now show you the Downwind Cypher. So now this is the Downwind Cypher. Oh, jeez. Sorry, Amos. All the general features about the Cypher have been just transferred across, but elongated. Now that seems pretty obvious, but you just need to be careful. Some shapes don't translate well once you make them long and skinny. And so this board really has been designed for your first 1 to 2 years of learning to downwind. This is a beginner intermediate board. If you are advanced, I'd still recommend that you head towards the Bullet. The Bullet is less stable at rest, but it has more features that benefit you once you're on foil, and it does paddle faster if you have the stability. So I've done some back-to-back testing with this board at 20 wide and my Bullet at 17 wide, and there's two things that I've noted is the Bullet is faster going down a bump, but because of that instability, once I fatigue, I tend to find that that instability wears me out a bit. And so when you're learning, you are much more tired than I would be even on a 30-kilometer run. So if you do a 6-kilometer run, you're going to use way more energy when you're learning than I am even on a 30-kilometer run. And that's just from the efficiency and the fitness that you develop. So you need a board that is going to, you're not just going to be able to paddle up once, you need a board that you're going to be able to paddle up maybe 20 times. And so maybe 30 times. It can be worse even than that. And there's two things that will help you paddle up, and that's being stable, and that is a board that will accelerate down the bump. Long boards go down bumps. That's just a reality. That's why downwinders, like traditional SUP downwinders, use long boards. There's nothing new here to learn. Long boards are better at going fast, and they're better at being more stable. And the second thing we did was we made sure that we kept it at about 20 wide. 20 is very stable because you add the foil in, and if you stick a big foil on this, it's so stable. I rode this the other day in wonky conditions on a 680R, and I'm 95 kilos. Now, the last time I took the 680R out on my Bullet, which is 17 wide, I couldn't even stand up, and I had to get picked up from the beach. So this is a stable board, but it's stable enough that as you reduce your foil size, which reduces the stability of the board overall, that you'll continue to advance. Because I think what some people do is they just think, oh, I'll just get a narrower board, and they jump foil size down, and you'll notice a big change in stability when you reduce your foil size as well. So say if you're learning and you're on code foils, you stick a 10.75 on this and an 8.6, you're 85 kilos. That is the perfect learner combo in my opinion, or like a 13S from code. If you're on Axis, you could stick on an 1180 Spitfire and use this 8.6. You're sweet, you're away. That's a great combo to learn on, and then you can progress down the foil sizes first before needing to then change the board. I would always progress down foil size before I change my board. One of the other things that is a byproduct of the way we've designed this board is because we've kept it wide, it's fairly thin relative to other shapes, and what that does is gives you a better awareness of how high you actually are on your mast and how close to the water you're going to be. And so that is something that I've actually really been enjoying. I tend to ride a 75 centimeter mast, which has its downsides, but it also has its advantages. And I would recommend a 75 for people learning because it's easier to paddle up and they tend to go faster. And if you're learning, you're already on a big slower foil, you want to be able to go as fast as you can. So one of the other really important points when we were making this board and trying to figure out the dimensions is we wanted to keep it really simple. And I spoke with Josh Koo on multiple occasions, and Amos and Zane, and we just went like, if you could learn again, what's the ideal dimensions that you wish you'd started on to make the learning curve easier? And the two numbers that stuck out the most were 8.6 and 8.10. I would say the 8.6 is the ideal board for so many people. Anyone up to 90 kilos, even 95 kilos, you could learn on this board. And then we've got the 810, which is really designed for anyone sort of 90 kilos and up. So true story, somebody came to my house the other day to buy one of the prototype 7.4 boards that I had, and he was about 85 kilos, he said. And I could have just taken his money and, you know, sold the board. But I said, no, man, like, don't do this.
Don't do it. I'm a virgin.
This is going to make you suffer much more than you need to. And that's because I'm so convinced that the sort of 8.6 range of board, anywhere in that range, makes learning to downwind and paddle up so much easier. And because of the box placement, how well balanced these boards now are, you actually don't feel it that much. My stance on this board is about here. You can see where my mast is. So my mast is about here, so my fore's about here. And it feels great. I ride a 9.4 as well on really big days. There's no reason that you can't get a board like this. You will absolutely save yourself so much pain and misery if you go longer than you think. Josh Koo came back from his Voyager training in Hawaii, and he said one of the key things that he noticed was how frustrating it was that people wouldn't listen about board length. Lots of people on 7.8 boards, 7.4. It's doable, but it's so much harder that you should just listen. So yeah, if you're getting into downwinding, I don't care what board you end up getting, just make sure you get something in the 8.0 at least, mainly up to the sort of 8.6 to 8.10 mark to make your life so much easier. So that's the Downwind Cypher.